Hi, Zizaran here with another creator interview, this time featuring Kittencatnoodle, or as some of you know her as Lore Girl. Very many videos about lore, and Path of Exile has a lot of it, but doesn't always explain it very well. So, Noodle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Noodle. You can call me Kitten, Cat, Noodle, any combination of those. Lore Girl is a new one. That's great. So yeah, I streamed for a while, but eventually I got bullied into actually reading the story of Path of Exile because I asked too many questions of chat. And from there, I realized, hey, there's not really any people talking about the lore. Like I couldn't cheat and just watch videos instead, which is what I hope to provide to everyone else who has ever wondered about the lore of Path of Exile. Because yeah, as you said, it's not like, hey, just read it. You have to research, take notes, go to other sources, think real hard.
Yeah, it's very spread out, and like the worst thing for Path of Exile players is they actually have to stand still to receive the lore and listen, which is awful.
Right. And God forbid you actually know how to get through an act. And so you forget to go back once you have gotten to the mudflats in Act 6. And you know you're supposed to get the eye and go through the door. But if you do that, you're going to miss very important dialogue.
Oh, I didn't actually know that either. So
Yeah.
there it
Good
is.
stuff.
There it is. No, and I mean, I know there's some like comic books and stuff like that. I actually read those ones while sick. They're pretty cool. I don't know how many there are. I read the one with Victario and Malachi and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were pretty cool. And that's when I actually started caring about the lore. And I think another thing for me was the I think it was the Conqueror trailer, Conquerors of the Atlas, when they're like, well, we are those bosses, like we are those conquerors. That's my favorite lore. And I figured maybe you could like explain that to people because that's such a cool thing in my opinion. Um,
Hmm.
so if you want to go ahead and cover that lore, that'd be cool to hear from an expert.
Yeah. Yeah. It was super. I mean, they've always done stuff that's a little bit meta, but that was very much like, hey, we're introducing the conquerors who are people who helped Xana defeat the Elder. And you're like, that's me. I did that. That was me. I did that. And so, yeah, it's literally a story about how a you in a different dimension, I guess. They don't exactly say, you know, how it happened, but to make something that has happened that's significant not be in the past, but still be something that's already happened. And they just make it so that it's you. And then they make fun of you by saying, oh, yeah, they all went crazy because all they do is hang out in the Atlas and kill things. And gosh, they just never came out of the Atlas and now they're all crazy. Ugh.
Yeah, we just like
You're like,
farming.
hey, yeah, they're just farming, just trying to get good gear.
Yeah, and then after you kill Cyrus, the last thing Sana says is very menacingly, she's like, but now you're done, exile. You leave the Atlas alone. And you're like, oh shit. So,
Yeah,
what do you think has happened to Sana now? Like, where do you think she is? Do you think, is she gonna plot against us? Or is she like just setting up this really cool like loot rehab facility for us?
yeah, right. We're gonna see her in the future, but it's just gonna be in like a care home for elderly exiles. Um, yeah, I definitely they would be foolish not to bring Xana back. I think that would be really just a bummer for everybody involved if they didn't find some way to bring her back. I think it's pretty clear she's going to be an antagonist, but not in the sense of like piety doing bad things. I think it's going to be a real, if you weren't aware, anybody wasn't aware, we're not like the heroes. We're not really like
Or bad
good
people?
people generally in this game. So I think she's going to come back as an antagonist. I think she's going to come back with a worthy cause, but there is some hints that she might actually be the Countess in Act 1 of Path of Exile 2.
Wait, what? Really?
Yes, yes. So the person in the Countess is very mysterious, comes pretty recently to Ezimir, to the Count. They get married. The Count starts changing. She's very against gods, and she's very against, well, we don't know if she's against corruption, but she's certainly against power hungry people, which, that's fair. That's
That's
very
us.
Xana. Yeah, that's us. But what I think like why I think that it might be Xana instead of just another person who, has reasonable desires and goals, is that in Trial of the Ancestors, one of Hinakora's prophecies suggests that we will find somebody who we've known before with a different face, um, and that will cause something like somebody from our past will find with 3 different faces, and that they will have some effect on the future that is like this great imbalance that is going to come to pass. And
Wow.
yeah,
I
yeah,
had no idea about that. That's so cool.
it's really cool. It's very subtle, and it's one of those things that like you would have to read all of Hinakora's dialogue after a very particular, not in order trial completion.
Wow.
So
You must put a lot of effort into gathering all this info.
yeah, I basically have to record everything that I can, just in case there's one of those one-time dialogues. It's a reaction to you finishing a quest or something, but there's a lot of the times where stuff is also gated behind RNG. Like in Trial of the Ancestors, every time after I think 14, there's about 30 dialogues that are just random. So I
Yeah.
definitely did a
Wow.
lot of trials trying to get all of the dialogue.
So
I
you're just
don't know
sitting
if I
there like,
did.
oh, this is a new one. This is a new one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's funny.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And like we've had a lot of different types of lore. Some stood out more
Mhm.
than others. Like we had the Harbinger stuff. Did that ever get solved?
No, and that's one of my favorite lore concepts, and also, I just feel like there's somebody at GGG who created a whole language, and it's
Wow.
just been on the table, like, "Hey, the Harbingers have a language that goes with all of their items," and, some people have kind of solved it. They introduced new items, and no, there's been no follow-up. We don't know anything about them.
Right.
I think initially they were sort of like lumped in with breach monsters and beyond and everything from interdimensional, but I think that GGG, if you're listening, there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with that, and you don't have to do like Harbinger 2. You could just like,
Yeah.
maybe reintroduce them. No, there's so
So
many
how solved is it?
there's a pretty comprehensive document out there actually. Like some redditors went really hard, and I definitely used it to extrapolate information to try to figure out the new items when they came out in Harvest, like what it was saying. But and that was probably the nerdiest thing that I've ever done with lore stuff was like trying to
Yeah.
decode the Harbinger language. Deeply nerdy, but
Yeah, because we never got
the
like a Rosetta Stone for that, right? And I
no.
remember they sent out stuff to streamers that patch. They sent out maps, and I thought they would have some sort of like message or something connected
Like
to
a
the Harbingers
clue.
on them, like a clue. There's just nothing. There's maps. It's
Oh
like, oh,
my
okay.
gosh. That's so crazy. No, and there's even a forum post that specifically says, we're gonna go back to some leagues. We're thinking about Harbinger 2. Like that's one that they've actually said and put out there. So
Right.
no, but there's a lot of loose ends. There's Metamorph never really got resolved. Uh
So what was
it's just
unresolved about Metamorph? Like, well, I didn't pay attention to all of the lore at all there, except that he's like that was a dark league. I did
yeah.
pay attention a little bit. It's something about like he was enslaved, and then every time you spawn a metamorph, it's his former master. So he's basically torturing his former master for all eternity. Is that the gist of it?
Yeah, you do read.
I do read a little bit.
No, that's honestly pretty much it, is that it's like the essence of his former master. But what you were supposed to do, the end game, I guess, of Metamorph was to put all of the pieces together to create like the ultimate monster in the lab. So you know how sometimes when you have pieces in there, it would fill up all the way
Yeah.
and you're like, nothing is different?
That did feel very unfinished. Like, aside from the
Mhm.
lore, just as a gamer, I was like, this league feels like it should have super bosses, like basically Ubers. And I was like, it's very sad.
Absolutely. Very sad. Very sad for everybody. And now Tane's gone, eh?
He's gone. He's gone. It's just an MTX now. Been reduced
Yeah.
to money.
R.I.P.
Right. Yeah. Navali's gone. Well, yeah, I guess she came back for Toda.
She kind of came back, yeah.
Yeah.
In a weird.
So, do you have some like favorite tidbits of lore? Do you want to drop some like big bombshells on people that maybe want to get into the lore?
Yes, there's definitely some very good pieces, and I've tried very hard to curate this into ways that are uh, digestible and small.
Awesome.
Small little tidbits of lore. Um, I think probably my favorite character is Arakali, not just because she's a hot spider goddess. That's part of it.
Right.
But she's
Okay.
like a multifaceted
I
hot
didn't know there
spider
was much
goddess.
to Arakalis. I'm very surprised here. I'm excited.
hmm No, she's super interesting because she was a Vol god. And the dichotomy, I guess, is that yes, she lures people into her sex dungeon and then turns them into liquids. And then, the flip side of that is that the liquids she turns into potions to heal all of her people. She was like a massive healer for a bunch of people and brought prosperity to the land. So it's like,
So very the ends justify the means there, I guess.
a little bit, yeah. I'm very, I guess, utilitarian in that. And then the whole thing with Gruthkul, right? So Arakali can also see the future, or at least see prophecies. She sees that Gruthkul's children are going to kill her, so she goes and kills Gruthkul.
Oh, so she killed her children.
Yeah, she kills Gruthkul's children to prevent this, and then locks Gruthkul into a cave. And then for a long time, this was all yada yada yada. Gruthkul escapes, and then we have to kill her now too. Which, it always felt kind of bad killing Gruthkul, because it's like, okay, this is just a mom who, demon spider mommy over across the river had a prophecy that her children are going to kill her.
She gives this heal point. It doesn't feel that bad.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely worth the kill. No regrets. But like, it was kind of like, why are we killing this god? She's trapped in a cave. She's just really sad. She gives a skill point. It's a very good counterpoint. But the recent League Affliction kind of revealed that part of why Gruthkul came back as a sort of actually malicious god was because of the Wildwood and the power of naming. The children, not literal children because they were killed by Arakali, but the followers of Gruthkul were Asmiri, and they escaped into the Wildwood to, flee from Arakali's wrath and sex venom liquid potion stuff that she does, as you do. And they just happened to be talking about Gruthkul, and they said, oh, something our porcelain queen, because that's what they called her, because she had white hair and she was very like sad and fragile.
Right.
And by saying porcelain queen, the Wildwood gave her a name and had her come back as Spooky Moose with
So she
a lot
used
of
to be
rage.
like humanoid.
Mm-hmm.
Ah. I call it bear
Yeah.
deer.
Yeah, I call it the moose. I don't really know what it is. A bear deer that's actually more accurate, because
Yeah.
body of bear, face of a deer. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very I just think Arakali's cool. Also, Arakali Fang Dagger is like one of my favorite items in the game. I just love
Awesome.
the spiders.
Yeah.
Spider
Huh.
build, very fun.
I didn't know there was that much more to like Arakali. That really shows like how spread out the lore is. I actually always thought that so the voice, the delirium voice, I thought that's what killed her children, and that's Tung Mazu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that 100% confirmed, or is just that like a theory?
So the voice is Tangmazu, like delirium voice is Tangmazu, and Tangmazu's definitely done some bad stuff to other Asmiri, but I don't know if
Quick
he
recap.
is
Who's the
involved with
Asmeri?
Gruthkul. Oh, yes, let's go. So the Asmiri, when you get to Act 2, there's some Asmiri there who are like, more modern Asmiri, but back in the ancient days of the Vol, when the Vol were in power, the Asmiri were the closest people to them and were a lot more rural mountain people, I guess. They didn't really have written language. They certainly had religion and all of that, but like when you think of the Asmiri, it's Solaris, Lunaris. Some of the other gods
Oh.
are associated with the Asmiri that also then became the Eternals, because the person who founded the Eternal Empire was originally an Asmiri who descended from the mountains and
Was that
built Sauron
Lioneye?
on the bones of the Vol. No, Tarkus Varuso.
Oh, never even heard that name. Wow.
Really?
No, not even
Oh
once.
man, not even once. Tarkus
Damn.
Varuso, not even once.
Yeah, no, I'm like getting a lore explosion here. This is crazy.
Yeah,
I
sometimes I
actually
don't know
thought,
where to start.
yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
it's
oh,
so
let's go
crazy
back to the.
because people ask me about lore a lot, and I will say like, go watch Kittencatnoodle videos, but like I do know a decent amount of lore, so the fact that I haven't heard of any of these things, and I will like ramble on about it, but that's crazy.
I know that's there's so much. I do feel like I have a very I have a tendency to latch onto something that I like and absolutely learn everything about it that I possibly can. Like I did that for Game of Thrones back they never actually finished it cuz in my head season 8 never happened and we just live in a happy place where nothing was ruined, but
Based.
yeah.
I've been thinking about rewatching it lately, but I'm like, oh, but the last season.
I can't even do it. But I used to get super into like I knew everything about every character. I read all the books, like I knew all the politics. So with Path of Exile, that's kind of become what I do
It's
now.
been
I'm
your
like,
Game of Thrones. Yeah.
yeah, it's the new one. It's the
Wow.
better one.
Huh. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
it's interesting. And like I feel like a lot of this stuff is easier conveyed through cutscenes and stuff like that. And we have like a 6-second cutscene, if that, or a 3-second cutscene. That's all we got.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's no wonder that a lot of people aren't actually paying attention to this.
Well, I really hope that they make a journal. I think that's the one thing. If I could pitch one thing for Path of Exile 2 is a journal. Because if you could just go back and read the dialogue instead of having to sit there and waste precious seconds, minutes sometimes
Yeah, and
listening
even
to
like
people
click
talk.
play while you're farming and going between zones, you can like listen to
Yeah.
everything. That'd be great.
Could do that with environmental lore. Why can't I do that with people? You know?
Yeah. Well.
I don't want to have to just stand there. That would be really, really nice.
Hmm.
I do have one more favorite lore.
Okay.
Yes, because it is. I think some of the lore is very set. Like it's a thing that happened, and then we never really touch it again, and that happens with a lot of
But before we
leagues.
do your last bit of favorite
Okay.
lore, I have a question. How did you
Yes.
feel about Calandra being a bird? Right, that's what I thought.
You know, the normal disappointment when something epic is instead a bird.
Yeah.
It
I
was
was
pretty
expecting her
bad.
to be some sort of super version of Solaris and Lunaris, some sort of like ascended goddess, basically like a nice version of Aziri. And when I saw Bird, I was like, no, that's not it. The
I
main
know.
character of Path of Exile is a bird lady.
The
Why?
most iconic character is literally just like a sad bird lady who's stuck in a lake.
I was so sad. And I had such high hopes for the league. So what I thought the league was
Mhm.
going to be, because wow, this is so cool because you know the lore. So every unique item in Path of Exile is mirrored, right? That's a big part of the
Yes.
lore. Like we don't have the original item anymore. So I thought that we would in Path of Exile Calandra League find the actual original item, but that for some reason it would be too powerful for us to wear, and then we'd make
Yes.
basically like new replicas and new mirrored copies. So maybe like a Combs Heart with a sixth link, or just like a different
Ooh.
way to mirror them and like make our own unique items for that league. And then we got the ring thing, and I was like, oh, okay, never mind. Fuck that idea, I guess. Oh,
That's
so
such a
sad.
good idea. That would have been so much cool. I was really hoping we'd learn anything about Calandra, right? I mean, there were some interesting bits, like it was sort of alluded to in that league and then confirmed in trial that Sin got the Ember. They created the beast from Calandra, which is cool. That's the one thing.
But tell me more.
Okay. So, uh, Hinakora talks about knowing that she's going to be put to sleep, but she has to counsel Sin to go to the lake, talk to Kalandra, knowing that whatever happens there is going to make it so that she's asleep. And that's why she prepares the Hall of the Undead and all of the stuff that she does.
Okay.
In Kalandra League, there's an ancient etching that says the thief of virtue came here talking about the gods. Kalandra talks about how she hates the gods, and she says, what you need, my thief, is a shattered mirror. So it's not like super confirmed, but it's basically implied that Kalandra, hating gods, had Sin come to ask for, advice or guidance, and then gave him the ember that created the beast. So she's certainly more powerful than a normal bird, I think.
Hopefully. You would hope so.
Maybe. It was shocking. I kind of wish they could put that back in the bag, because
Well, they could. They could easily go like that was a false goddess, like she was just pretending to be Calandra, and then like real Calandra comes and just like stomps on the bird, and we have chicken. Like
yeah,
that would be so much better.
I would honestly be better. Because
Also,
I was really
I actually
hoping
I don't even care about the reason. Out of anything that anyone could retcon, this is like the most like. Please just annul this. Like,
yeah. Just redo.
yeah,
For real, because it'd be so cool to know how or why she's reflecting things, right? Why are these uniques being created? Or even if there's a reason of why there's so many in the world, when like she can do it and the replica researchers can't do it. What's the difference there? And instead, I guess the answer we got for that is like, because the lake is a reflection. Ooh,
yeah.
I was.
So Sin made the beast.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Sin made the
Yes.
beast because gods are bad, and he wanted them to fall asleep.
Yes, particularly he wanted. Well, we can't necessarily trust everything he says, but he says that he created the beast because he wanted his wife, well, ex-wife, and daughter to stop fighting, because they would kill all humanity with their fighting.
Wait, who's his
And
ex-wife and
so,
daughter? Oh, his daughter is Shakari, right?
uh-huh.
Yeah, because he goes like,
Yes.
daughter. Who's his wife?
Gruth, not Gruthkul. Garuken.
Oh, I think I knew that. I think I knew
Mhm.
that.
Mhm. It'd be
Right.
funny if it was Gruthkul, the bear deer.
I mean,
It's all coming full
Baldur's Gate
circle.
3 was pretty, I mean.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah, and part of what I like about the Sin and Innocence lore is that it's evolved over time, unlike other things which are very like,
Mhm.
here's a league and then it's dead, and you can do the mechanic, but like nothing is changing about it. Which
Right.
is sort of where Harbinger and some other leagues are. But Sin and Innocence, like, you're introduced to them. Sin comes and he's like, "Hey, I'm actually the good guy, even though my name is Sin. Do you want to go kill all these gods and like get all their powers? Because it's gonna help people." And obviously, we want to do that, but it's weird, you know.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I was
Some of the
wondering.
gods are clearly a threat, like Tukohama is, outside about to wage war on the people.
And
He's a threat.
Kitava just won't stop
Hmm.
eating. I think he like ate like a full lake or something, and the other gods were like, "Yo, Kitava, you need to stop eating." And then he just started eating more, and they were like, "Okay, bro, we're putting you in timeout."
Yes, exactly. Hinekor was literally like, "Hey, time out in a rock." And that's why he breaks out of the statue.
Yeah, and we see like the cool footsteps and stuff like that. That was really
Hmm.
interesting. So I was wondering, was Sin like indiscriminate about what gods are affected, or was it like targeted?
I don't really know, because it seems like it was targeted, but I also kind of, there's some like Gruthkul that you're like, okay, is this an immediate threat to everyone around here? And now we know that there are gods who did wake up who he didn't
Yeah.
kill or have us kill. So I don't know for certain. His motivations with that are a little bit questionable, but we don't really question it because we get powers.
Yeah, so Sin could be
So
evil.
he could be, but he's definitely not as evil as Innocence.
Right. That makes sense.
Yes.
That makes
Which
sense.
was always kind of hinted at, because we get ascension stories for most of the gods. Like Brian King uh, was a really good warrior and he
So
became a crab.
so most of the monsters were people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the Val as well. Were they always like big, hunkering, like weird zombie like things, or were they like an actual civilization with people as well?
They were definitely people. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I'm sure they had a little bit of a mix of that, since they did some experiments,
Yeah, because they were
lots of
like
blood
they're based on the
sacrifices.
Aztecs, right? With like the blood
Hmm.
sacrifice and stuff like that, right? That was another thing I
Yeah.
was very disappointed with. like with the incursion boss, I was like, oh my god, what's the boss gonna be here? And it's a vacuum cleaner, and
It's
I'm
a
like,
Roomba.
bro, why?
It's
And
King
I know
Roomba.
exactly how it happened as well. Like as if I was there. Like they were having a meeting at the GDD office, and like Chris was sitting there like, dude, we don't know what kind of boss. Like, should we have another queen, a rival queen? Should we have a king of the Val? And then the office Roomba just gets stuck on the door or something, and Chris looks up and he's like, there it is.
That's it. I'm so inspired right
I
now.
know that must have been it. I was disappointed in that one. And
It is a very funny boss.
another thing as well. So pretty much the root of all evil in the universe is us killing the beast, right?
To an extent, I mean, at the
Well,
same time, the beast is creating a lot of evil. Like the reason that everything is all bad and there's so many zombies and the monsters are going crazy, that's all because of the beast and because of Malachi and the beast.
right. But would that have happened if Malachi wasn't like perverting the beast's nature? Because the beast was there just to like make the gods fall asleep, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think that it would have happened if Malachi wasn't there, but I also think that the beast talks to Malachi and like
So he's like the
tries to
ring.
get him to. Yeah, exactly. Like Malachi's like, yo, I'm hearing voices in my dreams and they're telling me to go to the mountain, and that there's gonna be like lots of power and stuff there. So yeah, it is
Yeah.
Malachi's fault, but like the beast is asking for it.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And I guess the
Yeah.
other root of all evil in PoE is Venarius, because he sets free the Elder, right?
Hmm.
Right. And before that, we're doing
Yes.
Where's Waldo?
Yeah, that's a very complicated one though,
The
because
Venarius one?
Venarius, yeah, it is. It's everything's complicated. I feel like Matt has a particular. He's like, "Ooh, you think you understand how this works and why this happened? No, you don't
Yeah.
actually understand. It's more complicated than that." But I would say Venarius is evil, but he went to go get the sword or to get the help from the elder, thinking that it was just a powerful being because he knew about the scourge monsters and the breach monsters.
Oh.
Because that is ancient Templar knowledge passed down from High Templar to High Templar
Oh, I didn't know
about
that.
the scourge. We didn't learn that until Sanctum.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Scourge had some cool lore with the last to die. That's Alva from another universe. Those I thought was
Officially
very cool.
confirmed.
Oh, that's actually
Yes.
officially confirmed because I know so many
Yes.
people were like, "Oh, they were probably just lazy with the character model," and I was like, I don't think that would be a thing. Like, it's the
Yeah.
same
Oh,
character model and voice actress. Like, that's too much
and
of
the
a
voice
coincidence.
actress. That's the one that's a little bit like,
It's like
okay,
both.
yeah.
Like, sure, one maybe. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, reusing the assets. Because I was on the fence. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Last to Die, but also, Alva's very much like, ooh, I don't really know where my blood powers came from. And Last to Die is like, my family made a pact with chaos many moons ago, and now I have this blood crucible that I inject into my body. And
Yeah. So
very knowledgeable,
is the
very
scourge
serious.
taken care of now? Like, are we safe? Did we
We're
win?
never safe.
Yeah, that's
Did
the
we
thing.
win?
Like, we're still farming beyond. So I mean,
Yeah, and Sanctum is still happening, and Lycia is still there. So, no, not safe. I think Scourge is going to be involved with the end game, or like the end of this chapter
mm.
with the Maven. Like, I think that's part of it.
Yeah, there must be
Because
a lot of new lore coming up with the. They must have weaved lore into like the Necropolis League. So you must be very excited for that.
yes, I am very excited. I definitely fell for them putting all of the bosses together. Like they had Katarina and Lycia and the Liches, and I was like, what does it mean? Like, what is that? Oh, it's Avengers teaming up together. And then in
Yeah,
the Q&A, I think they were like, oh yeah, we definitely baited people with that. I was like, I fell for that so hard. I was
that's funny.
absolutely like, why would they join together? Like, what could that mean? But they are the guy Aramor is digging up bodies specifically of Eternals,
Hmm.
which is very interesting. In fact, one of the items we saw is of Victario,
Yeah,
the people's poet, and so like I guess we
we have his
find the
boots.
corpses of his family
I guess
to
he's pretty old. He's back when like the gems were first invented and stuff like that.
He is from the recent Cataclysm.
Yeah.
The Purity Rebellion.
That's it. Purity
with
Rebellion.
Vol.
Yeah, that's because that's the one I read the comic book on.
Yeah. Which I have not actually. I've read parts of the comic book.
You haven't read that one.
I
You're
know.
like the main lore person. That seems illegal.
Yeah. I should probably read that.
You get loads
can
of
cut
like
that.
Malachi stuff there about like Diala being his concubine and stuff like that, and he's just like, hey, let me put some gems in.
Yeah, I mean, relatable.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Right. But yeah, no, so you should definitely read that. I think we'll wrap up with your least favorite or your most favorite bit of lore next.
Okay, so my favorite bit of lore, it all comes from Sanctum because it's something that I sort of had been thinking for a while. It does involve sin and innocence, so
Okay.
again, this kind of ties into it. Is that we learned about sin and innocence ascension from Templar like writings. That was all like, oh yeah, sin was very bad and innocence was very good, and then sin was tied to a stake and burned alive, and that's the whole story. And it's like, what? How did that make him a god? Like you hear the other stories about ascension, and it's all from
So he
fear
became a
and
god by
worship.
being burned?
Yes, that was their story, and I thought that's fishy as heck. I don't trust this Templar propaganda, is what I would always call it, just propaganda, because it was. And then in Sanctum, we found out that Innocence is actually Maxarius, who was the first High Templar. He is the person who started the religion, and he wanted to become a god so bad that he burned sin alive, saying that he is the essence of everything bad. And so the story is true, but it's not like, oh yeah, sin is the embodiment of bad and innocence is the embodiment of good, which was the sort of moral, whatever that they were trying to show with the cleansing fire of, the purifying flame is what they call it, of innocence. So sin did become a god from being burned, but it's because his own brother literally made everybody hate him so much that the ritual of burning him in front of all these people who hated and feared sin for no reason besides what Innocence / Maxarius said made him become a god as well when Innocence ascended to godhood through his religion, which apparently he tried multiple times and he didn't succeed until the cleansing fire came, which is like the deity or like, I don't know, the eldritch being behind the Searing Exarch, and that's why the symbols of the Searing Exarch and Sin and Innocence are very similar. It's not their dad, which is what I was hoping. I thought it was like a daddy, but it's it's not that, but it was inspired by it. Innocent saw the cleansing fire and was like, hey, people are really scared of that. I'm going to use that to say, follow me, and I will use my purifying flame, my cleansing fire, to protect everybody. So that was I was like, yes, I knew it was propaganda. Wow. Also, Maxarius is a jerk. Innocence is a jerk. And it explains even more why Sin and Innocence at the end of Act 10 are having this conversation where Innocence is like, I'm sorry, brother. Please forgive me. And it's like, what, for killing people? Gods do that all the time. But it's more for, burning him at the stake and turning him into a god.
Yeah, and I mean, he's locked inside Baran, or no, what's his name again?
Oh. No, it is Baron. No, it's not. That's the Conqueror. Oh.
It's something on B, isn't it?
It does start with a B. Oh, Lily has the funniest dialogue about him.
Yeah, because he just so he just explodes him, right?
Yeah.
I'm too curious.
He accepts.
Oh yeah, so it's a consensual thing, right? He gets consensually exploded.
It is consensual. Yeah, okay. Consensually exploded for Innocence, even though he knows that,
Okay, that's good. I wonder, is he still in Act 9? If I go there?
He's in Act 5.
I'm gonna check Act 5. Maybe he's still there. Because I've already done the campaign, so he is exploded. Bannon.
He's already... Bannon. There we go.
Yeah. And then there's Valenta and Lani. Poor Valenta, she gets all Kitavad.
Yeah, I think she's sort of seeks that out though as well a little bit. She's a
Yeah.
little spicy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very dark lore. Like there's so much stuff in PoE. It's very hard to find. So it's great that you make these videos. Like
Mhm.
they're very good and makes it a lot easier to follow, and you do all the research so people don't have to set in like 200 or 300 hours. But yeah. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
taking the time to explain some of the lore for us.
for
So
sure. Happy to geek out anytime.
awesome. So there you have it. If anyone wants to watch more lore, go check out Kittencatnoodle on YouTube. Amazing creator. Plays and streams PoE now and again as well. And just awesome stuff. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So if you liked the video, and as always, try to do less than I do.